Well, good day everyone, and welcome to another edition of the What the Hell's Going On There? The weekend wrap brought to you by CrowCast, of course. What a fantastic night it was too, with the Crows just getting up finally at the death after giving us all a bit of a scare. But it was fantastic to celebrate another Showdown victory over the Little Brothers down the road. And joining me, of course, as usual, to wrap it all up is Browny. How you going, Browny?
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate. Yeah, pretty happy. I was at the game and yeah, great atmosphere. I wouldn't say the best game of football I've ever seen, but it was the atmosphere was great. It was tight and yeah, just getting the win was awesome.
Absolutely. And big man, of course. How you going, mate?
Go, you fucking crap! No, so it was good, mate.
That's about the most animated I've ever heard you, mate.
No, it was good. It's
Hmm.
yeah, 2 or 3 days later now, so I can't get guys excited about it. But yeah, I was pretty pumped after the game, mate. It was tense, it was exciting, it was depressing for a little 20, 30 seconds there, and then it was ecstasy again. So yeah, look, a lot of things to work on. We're still a long way behind where we should be, but little things like that you got to appreciate, and anytime it's port, mate, makes it even a bit sweeter.
Sometimes you just got to celebrate the win, don't you?
Sure do, mate.
Yeah, it's good to have everyone along. We've got an excellent crowd as usual in the Discord studio. So any of you guys and girls, if you want to have something to say, please raise your hand. Of course, we're live and interactive as always, and we'll endeavour to get you on to have your say. And of course, welcome to everyone who's watching the live stream on YouTube as well. We've got quite a few there. If you would like to have your comment read out, just flick us a super chat and we would be happy to read out and discuss your comment as well. I won't spend more than about 5 seconds talking about the rest of the round, but I'll just flick them up really quickly for everyone to see. Of course, we had an interesting... Where's my little... There it is. Interesting round, a cracker on Thursday night, which seems like ages ago. With the draw, the Bulldogs going down to Fremantle, the Bombers getting torched by Brisbane, Richmond getting their first win of the year over West Coast, Geelong doing a number on North, Carlton doing Carlton and getting done by St Kilda with a shocking second half. Sydney getting up over Melbourne in what was a good game this afternoon, and I think that's a progress score. Gold Coast at the moment 3 goals up over the Giants. I believe that's right. So let me just double check. Yeah, 60-42, 18 points at the moment. Just shows you how good my little system is, that I can give you up to the up to the second results, Brownie. Up to the second results.
Yes, you're amazing, aren't you?
Well, you know. I like to think so.
Good to see you aren't fishing for compliments, mate.
No. I'd blatantly fish for compliments all the time. Don't worry about that.
Very humble man, mate. Very humble.
Yeah, well, if I don't fucking give me a compliment, no one else will. Looking at the ladder with that game still in progress, Sydney and Freo on 7 wins, Hawthorn on 6 and a draw. Brisbane, Geelong, Melbourne on 5, Collingwood, St Kilda, Gold Coast, North, Adelaide, and the Bulldogs on 4. Adelaide now in provisional 11th. They'll probably stay that way. Port on 3, along with the Giants, and West Coast on 2, Carlton, Essendon, and Richmond on 1. And the way things are going, Carlton's going to finish last, and that's pretty funny. All right, but we don't...
Sorry, do you mean the end of the... Who did you say is going to finish last? Carlton at the end of the season?
Carlton, yeah.
No, they're too competitive. They're in every game. They just can't win.
No, but they've forgotten their game's 4 quarters, so like they just will never win again. And as always, Radicus comes on board with support for the cast. Thank you very much, Radicus, for your ongoing support and people should get around Radicus's YouTube channel as well. Radicus posted in the chat, mate, so people know where it is. He says, I was lucky I got out alive after the game with the stuff I was yelling. Got a tad carried away. This should now be the start of the improvement. Don't make promises you can't keep, mate. And we love it. We love the passion. So this is, if ever there was a place to be passionate about the Crows, this is it. This is it, Brownie. All right, and we don't care about anything else, so why don't we just talk about the showdown straight away? And of course, it was Adelaide getting up by a point. What the hell? The thing that I just bragged about has got it as a draw, 11-9 to 11-9. I don't know why it's done that.
Oh, jeez.
So we'll just ignore that because it was actually 11-10 to 11-9, 1 point victors. We were. Disposals, Miller had 29, Berry had 29, and Peatling had 25. For Port, Wines had 30. I didn't even notice Wines. Zach Butters had 30, and Bergman had 23. Goal scorers, Keezy had 3, Rash had 2, Toby Murray had 2. For Port, Georgiadis had 3, Joe Berry had 2 that nearly stuck a dagger in all our hearts, and Corey Durden with 2 as well. Wow. Now you boys were there. Big man, I'll start with you. Give us your elevator pitch on how the game was.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought we looked like we came to play, but our ball use was awful in the first quarter, particularly. Some of our forward entries were horrible, and we were kicking a lot, especially in the first half, to Filthy, who just couldn't take a mark to save his life. And some of the ball handling and fumbling was quite bad again. Not nearly as bad as the Brisbane game, of course, but we showed signs of life in that second quarter, despite being a bit of an arm wrestle. That Butters goal hurt late, which was absolute bullshit too, just quietly. And then after half time, it just got going, especially in that last 15 minutes. Toby Murray obviously played a big part in that. Jake Saliga, I thought, had a really good third quarter.
Yep.
He set up both Murray's goals. We just, and then, from there, we obviously looked like the better team. And then there was a real patch there. And I know in that last quarter, I know it's your boy, and he had a great game. He won the bloody medal. But unfortunately, Berry just had that moment where he lost the ball security coming out after Philthorpe's goal in the centre. And they went down back straight away and kicked the reply. And we just couldn't, get the game back on our terms until the last few minutes, where Miller should have kicked the sealer, and then that was taken away from us as well. So, and I didn't even mention the Saligo one. Look, I'm sort of rambling on here. I don't want to go to the entire game, but it was we played in patches, but I thought the Endeavour was really good. Obviously, clearly we're not in sync nearly as much as we were last year, but there was some exciting stuff, and to be honest, it was a 1 point win, but that was probably felt more like a 2 or 3 goal win in terms of, I thought we had more control of the game, and obviously we had actually goals literally taken away from us. So I wish it didn't come to Cook's goal, but that was just freaking amazing. Like, it's amazing how often Showdowns manage to produce these all-time moments that get replayed or again and again. We see the Dawson goal, the unfortunate Motlop goal, but I think Cookie's goal is going to go down in the highlights packages for many years to come, and that's really exciting for a kid like him who's just having a really good season and finally made it at AFL level and looks like he belongs. So that's just reward for him too, because he's obviously put in the effort. And Brownie.
Now I'll mute Big Man now for the next 35 minutes.
I got to be honest, I just did my best Macca impression, so I waffled bad there. So Brownie, maybe sum it up, mate.
It's going to be. You didn't leave a lot for me to say, but no, I agree totally with you. On the negative side, first, I'd say, our forward entry 50s were were pretty horrific for the whole game. I think I was just looking at it today, and I think they had 8 effective kicks inside 50 to hit a leading player, and we had 4, and 2 of them were Toby Murray, just little chips, but we did miss a lot of opportunities. And around the ground, just missing the field kicks that missed the target. I think we had 21 for the game overall, so that was pretty. On the negative side, that was bad. I thought our pressure and our tackling sort of went up a notch this game. I've been a bit critical of our sticking our tackles and just our general pressure, and I thought we were pretty good this game. Like Peatling and Rankin and Berry was exceptional with 19 tackles. That was just unbelievable. So I think there are a lot of positives. The other thing I'd probably say is that I think it took Lockie and McAndrew a bit of time to get into the game, but I thought his second half was pretty dominant, and he probably nullified the ruck by the end of the game. Sweet had a good game as well, but I thought he worked his way back into it, and he kept fighting, and that was a good quality. But at the end of the day, a really scrappy game. But the fact that we got the points and beat Port once more was fantastic.
Yeah, I think what you guys have said is exactly right. Our forward 50 entries were shocking, and our connection at the moment, transitioning, is just all over the shop, and it's something they're going to have to really look at for the second half of the season, because whatever they're putting on the whiteboard in terms of game plan, not in terms of people's girlfriends like Brisbane, is not working. It's not cohesive, and we'll talk about individuals in a minute, but as a collective, we just weren't hitting targets. We weren't running to good spots. We weren't making good we just weren't being smart with the way we were coming into forward 50. But let's be objective about this. A 5-day break coming back from Brisbane, a disrupted preparation with the Dawson family's funeral on Wednesday. Niggles, as always, in terms of injuries and outs. And then you get to game day and the umpires decide that there's only one team playing. And they saw the odds on Sportsbet at $2.45 for Port and decided they'd have a piece of that. Clearly, because I can't explain how else they could make some of the decisions that they made. And we ended up finding a way to win, and it wasn't anything about system, it wasn't anything about game plan, it was just down to individual talent and individual efforts, and I think that's where we got Port at the end. We just, as you mentioned to me on the phone, Brownie, the other day, we just batted a bit deeper than they did in the end, and we made the most of our opportunities when it mattered after burning so many during the course of the game.
Yep, I think you nailed it there.
Thanks, mate. All right, just a couple of head-to-head stats. 198 to 219 kicks in Port favour. 141 to 137 handballs. 81 tackles to 69. I thought our pressure around the ball was back, and there were a couple of players that really showed signs of being far more engaged this week than they had been in previous weeks. Marks 78 to 103. They were cleaner on transition, and they were very good at getting the ball to the outside. Hit-outs, Sweet and Vicente got the better of Murray, but I thought McAndrew. But I thought McAndrew battled pretty hard and didn't allow them easy taps, if you know what I mean. So it was 38 to 55 in the end. Contested possessions 150 to 143, uncontested 196 to 207. Marks inside 50 8 to 12. Inside 50s, of course, we had stretches of sheer dominance there, 59 to 38. Centre clearances were beaten 10 to 14. Stoppage clearances were even 24 to 25. For what it's worth, I felt Port looked better structurally. They were able to move the ball with more method, big man, and I think our periods of dominance were where we were able to get forward half pressure, and it was like the first quarter in particular was the Crows of last year, where we were able to just block the ball, forward of centre and get repeat entries. We didn't make the most of them, but that looked like, last year how we were able to put pressure on the ball carriers coming out and turn the ball over.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, a lot of the stats are in their favour, but I mean, firstly, tackles is in our favour, which is nice because we've been, as you said, particularly last week against Brisbane, our intensity was considerably off, which is unlike us. And obviously, we got ourselves up for the showdown. That tends to be the case, but it was still nice to see it back. And I think another thing is just repeat entries as well. Which is something we also haven't seen. They were able to move the ball at times quite easily. They did a lot of chipping around as well. But our ability to sort of force the ball inside our own 50 and to have 20 more inside 50s, have we even won the 50 inside 50 count this year? I'm not even sure if we have.
No, and it's only, I think, the second time we've had over 50 for the season as well.
Well, that's crazy. So, they had 39. That's even worse than some of the stuff we put up. So it's impressive that they actually were so close. Given 39's diabolical. But it was nice just to see our play our brand a little bit better than we saw last year. Even though, as you said, it's just not the connection's not quite there at the moment. It still feels like things are quite difficult, and we have to force goals harder than you'd like. You'd like to have some easier goals kicked. It feels like we're really having to work hard for them. But as you said, players' individual brilliance stood up. Rankin with that running goal, Cook with obviously the sealer. We've got some pretty talented guys who can kick some freakish goals. So hopefully we can sort that out in the next few weeks and have a game where things are much tighter and in sync. But the important thing is we got the result in the end, even though the umpires tried to take him off us.
The umpiring was diabolical, and let's spend a moment on it because there were poor decisions both ways, but it seemed like there was some absolutely shameful decisions that went against us. The obvious one, the two that led to Butters' goal just on half-time, the one that originally caused the turnover, which was Rankin running too far after bouncing it twice.
Oh, yep.
Just diabolical. And then and I don't even blame Butters for this because he didn't stage it. He didn't even know he had the free. But that little nudge on Saligo from Saligo on Butters as the ball was going over.
He stumbled.
What he actually did was he stumbled, and then he thought the best course of action, rather than to try and stop on the AstroTurf, was just to allow his momentum to take him into the fence to stop him, which is what all players do. Because if you try and stop on that AstroTurf with Spriggs, you slip over, and that's even more dangerous. The umpire was right there. I just watched the game again like an hour ago. The umpire was right there, right on top of the action. And how he could possibly pay that free kick, I will never know.
I don't understand why these things happen. And look, we had a few weeks ago and gather around, we had the luck of the draw, a bit there. But these are the things where it's like, they're not just like, he was taken high a little bit, or he might have been, slightly held in a marking contest, stuff like that. It's ones where it just boggles the mind how the umpire came to that conclusion. Like, why did they pay that Saligo free? Why did the umpire pay the Rankin one again? That's like the third time now he's been called too far running. I never see it paid for anyone else, but I was at Rankin. The Saligo one with the arc decided, go umpire, you didn't have a great enough view. We're going to use this grainy film footage to determine that it's conclusive that it was actually a point, even though there's nothing to suggest it was. So that, thankfully, Rankin kicked a ripping goal 30 seconds later, but it almost cost us the game, like when you think about it. And then, of course, the most painful one was the Miller one, which was just a regulation, ticky touch Shepherd over the line to get the ball through.
Well, again, it was just a nudge, and the guy, I forget the Port player, but the Port player just carried the momentum and tried to jump to, in vain to try and reach the ball, which was miles over his head. And that's what the umpire saw and adjudicated it as a push, whereas it wasn't a push at all. It was the guy basically just riding the contact from Rochelle and making an effort to try and touch the ball. It was the clearest sign of an umpire that just doesn't have any feel for the game whatsoever. And it was so costly. And I don't know how Dylan and Swan and whoever else was sitting there would have got out of the park if we hadn't have got up after that decision. Yeah. That was insanity, that decision.
And Brownie, you can back me up. How loud was it when Miller kicked that goal?
Yeah, it was loud when he kicked it, but after it was disallowed, it just went to another level. It was insane. And you're right, with both of those frees that were paid, the amount of contact that Saligo and Rochelle actually, it was absolutely minimal, and they never ever get paid. And it's just the umpire seeing the player actually have momentum and assuming that the player had made more contact than they actually did. So the umpire's basically guessing, and that shouldn't happen. And the one with the Saligo goal, as much as I think it probably was a point, the fact that the goal umpire called it a goal, they didn't have any conclusive evidence.
I had a look at it again this afternoon. And when you see where, and I'm sure you did as well, but the way I saw it is when the goal umpire is right next to the goalpost, and when you see him looking up, there is actually the ball is actually goal side of the post. And because of the way he kicked it, he kind of bellied it and it floated a little bit and it kind of curled back around. Yeah. But I'm pretty comfortable that the goal umpire made the right call. But irrespective, the fact that the ARC thought that they had enough evidence to overturn that just clearly shows that they don't understand what their remit is. And they're not footy people that bloody do that thing. There's some tech head sitting in MIT or something or other running the ARC. And for them to impose themselves on the match like that with such inconclusive evidence, because at no stage did they sink the moment the ball reached the goal line from side on with where the ball was from behind. So you could never actually tell where the ball was in its flight at any stage. And for them to make that call, it was absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
It's just, I mean, at the end of the day, football's about entertainment and just that energy about it, like the crowd going nuts and stuff. And for them to, like the Miller instance, for instance, like just why to see that and think, no, we're not going to allow this amazing goal from the outside 50 that's going to seal the game because we're going to pay this tiniest of touches that was likely in the side anyway, based on what the footage we've seen.
It was on the side.
Yeah, so like it's just like there's no feel for the game there. There's no feel for the game like you mentioned with the ARC. Like I've had a go at Jerry Waitley for his opinion on and what he said on the Isaac Rankin issue, but he's always been very consistent with how poor score reviews are. And despite all the efforts we try to improve it, at the end of the day, dickheads, I'm going to put it, absolute dickheads behind the bloody ARC, keep making these mistakes. Like to say that was a conclusive decision that it wasn't a goal, like to override the goal umpire, like just give me a break. Like why are we doing these things? If it was clear, sure, but it wasn't. It clearly wasn't because it went over the goalpost. We don't know what it was.
That's right. It wasn't conclusive, and the irony is that if it had been called a point, it wouldn't have even been reviewed, because Greg Swan 2 weeks ago decided that they would only in another completely illogical decision by the AFL decided that scores are only reviewed if they are goals. So a point that should have been a goal is not important, but a goal that should have been a point is important. work that out. I can't work that out.
So does that mean the Ben Keys goal from a couple of years ago
Would have been a
that
point.
got called
It's,
a point wouldn't have been reviewed?
wouldn't have, it's
So
reverted back
how-
to how it was
Yeah.
before that happened. Yeah.
So we haven't got anywhere, have we? No progress.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well,
The
mistake
there's
of
no
that-
logic
of-
to it.
the mistake of that umpire was that goal umpire at that time was not even reviewing it, just saying outright, "Nah, it's a point," and it never got looked at because of that. That was their mistake. But yeah, it's a crap system that actually could be half decent in the right hands, but somehow they managed to keep making these ridiculous mistakes. And they
But
talk about
the
was
Keys
gonna say,
decision is exactly what that system is there for, because that was a howler. So that's the one where Art get on the blower and say, your bloke's messed up. It was a goal by 2 feet. That's the one that they're trying to catch, not the millimetre one where you haven't got the right angle, but you just make a bloody assumption.
Yeah.
But we had this, like, remember the Marshall mark last week or the week before? I forget when it was, but
Yeah.
they even played like almost a minute or so of bloody game time, and then they're like, no, actually, no, it was a mark, and when it actually
was
wasn't.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand how we keep doing this. It's just but yeah, and as I was saying, like they say, oh, geez, imagine if it cost someone a game. Well, it almost did. Let's be honest.
Well, it would have. Yeah, it could have very easily. Now, Nathan in the YouTube chat, thank you very much for your contribution and support. Another long-time supporter of the CrowCast, so we appreciate that. Now, he says, big man, not even a big man face reveal after a win like that. We need a promise from him. What will it take for a face reveal ASAP? I'm just going to sit back and allow you to answer that, big man.
I was going to say a flag, but that means you'll never see my face.
Oh, I haven't got that long to live.
Maybe. Oh, look, if we make a grand final, there you go. So
We make a grand final.
yeah, there we go.
Well, I'm going to
It's not
say
happening
this.
this year, then.
I'm going to say this. We have a bi-weekend drink session coming up
No.
Well, you're coming, aren't you?
Yeah, but let's not broadcast the event.
I've already broadcast it because it's a CrowCast drink session. It's not just the three of us. It's everyone coming. It's already been in Discord. We decided this. So the 31st of May, I think it is, the bi-weekend, Saturday afternoon at the Highway Inn. Big man was going to come, but he's probably going to find that he's double booked himself now. But me and Brownie will be there. Get along on bye weekend. There's a couple of games on that afternoon, and I'm in negotiations with the Highway to maybe give us a little bit of a tab. We'll see how we go with that one. But irrespective, it'll be good to catch up with anyone who wants to come along and sit in the beer garden, watch a bit of footy, and just get amongst it. All right. Now, look, PJ Crow's raised something that I was going to raise too, and it's kind of related to the umpiring, but I just don't think this is a coincidence. So after the game, after a couple of quick on-field interviews, there's no post-game. There's like a 2-minute throw from the Fremantle Western Bulldogs post-match to our game. Today, no review on the Sunday Footy Show of the best game of arguably the best or second best game of the round. No review. Nothing on first crack. What the fuck? Like,
are you serious?
Nothing at all. Nothing. There has been literally no coverage of one of the better showdowns that you'll ever see. Now, is that burying umpires' decisions, or is that just the fact that the SA rivalry shows up the VFL and therefore we want to just bury it under a pile of shit?
That doesn't seem to make sense because all of the interstate commentators have all said it's the best rivalry in AFL, and they're talking it up and saying it should have been a standalone game. So
Yep.
I don't think the networks are pushing. So whether there's pressure from the AFL, who knows?
Are you telling me? Are you serious? Like nothing on those two shows?
Nothing.
Nothing on First Crack?
Nothing. So we get buried in a double header. So we're not the nationally televised Friday night game. We don't get a post match. Whereas Western Bulldogs Fremantle got a 9-year post match. The Thursday night show got I think the Hawthorn Collingwood post match is still going on KO somewhere. And I went out to do something for 30 seconds after they'd done the on ground interviews, and I come back and there's golf playing on KO, and then today nothing, like literally nothing.
Yes, I mentioned that. I was going to say Crunch Time did one, but that was because that was the next day. But I'm put on a Sunday night. It was still the biggest talking point of the round.
I mean, I'm talking about the major Sunday shows, the Sunday footy show, and First Crack.
It wasn't like there was anything on Saturday that would take away what happened on Friday night. It was like you go.
No, I was just going to say that when you've got like most commentators will say it's at the very minimum the best rivalry in the AFL, and probably in any football code in the country, maybe rivaled by the New South Wales Queensland Origin rivalry, but in terms of club-based rivalries, and arguably of any sport in Australia, it's the best rivalry. It always fills the stadium. It always gets rave reviews. It always gets massive interest and acknowledgement from non-South Australian people of how good a game it is and how great the rivalry is and all the rest of it. And yet, the AFL, the money-grabbing AFL that they are, don't think it's worthwhile putting any time and effort into showcasing this game, but they'll happily put Richmond on a freaking primetime slot repeatedly. They'll happily give non-contenders primetime slots like Anzac Day and bloody Queen's Birthday and all that shit. Essendon, continually, all that stuff. What is going on? What is going on? Because this is revenue that they're missing out on. So there's got to be something more to it.
I mean, look, in terms of the actual fixturing, the AFL's excuse is that the broadcasters don't want to have a non-Victorian team on a Friday night, basically. Two non-Victorian teams, because they're worried that they think Victorians, according to their data, won't tune in, which, if true, says a lot about Victorians, let's be honest. But
I don't think that's true for the Showdown.
Well, I don't think they've ever done it, so they don't have that data, do they? They've always, both times it's been on Friday night, it's been an overlapping game with with another game. So you're right. I mean, then again, Jared Waitley was pretty clear on this. He thinks that it's the broadcasters and the AFL need to open their eyes and actually trust the Showdown to bring big numbers, because everyone knows what the Showdown is, and we always hear about how great it is, and yet the AFL don't follow through and make it a standalone game. But then to not even discuss it, that blows my mind, boss. I can't believe it. You said that. So that says a lot about how Vic-centric the AFL media still is, even though you think in this day and age it wouldn't be the case. But now we have to hear about Carlton v St Kilda again, or all these Victorian teams that aren't going anywhere. When you had one of the great finishes of all time in 2 days ago.
The problem is, though, that the environment's changed, because we used to have a guarantee of all Crows games free to air in South Australia, but that's no longer the case. There are Crows games now that are behind paywall, and I'm sure it's the same for Port, that you can only see live on KO. So there's no longer the argument that, South Australians get to see all their games free to air, therefore we need the standalone Friday night games with a Victorian team, blah, 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 blah. I mean, what would you rather play on a Friday night? A Western Australian team and a middle-of-the-road Victorian team, or an absolute standout rivalry that delivers every single time. I just, for me, it doesn't make commercial sense, and it's not equitable. And again, just another slap in the face for South Australian football, in my opinion.
Preaching to the choir here, mate.
Yeah. So, but for the lack of coverage in the post match shows and all that sort of thing, that ticks off my conspiratorial nerve, Brownie. There's something more to that. That's not an omission. That's not an oversight.
It's unusual because normally on the Sunday footy show they go over every game. So you're saying they didn't actually discuss the Crows game?
Just the normal score recap
Maybe.
and a little score recap, because they do all the score recaps and all at the beginning or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think Sloaney stood
no
up for 30
highlights and
seconds.
in-depth, though?
No,
Yeah.
not that I saw. There was a quick thing from Sloaney on the analysis thing, but it was like usually they do all the scores and then they go through every game and all that sort of stuff. We got none of that.
Yeah.
But the whole the Fox situation has gone down the toilet since DAZN took that over. Games just disappear. And it's the most expensive it's ever been. It's an absolute shit show. KO's actually going in my hall of flame on Tuesday night because I know that Macca will do the umpiring. Anyway, so that was
the new
weird.
app sucks though.
Oh, it's terrible.
I hate it. What happened? The old one was fine.
Yeah, they changed it over when they changed ownership. They've changed because that's DAZN's global platform that they're using now.
Well, it's shit house if they want to know. Just some feedback.
It's 100% shit house. Like if I'm watching a game, but not live. So if I'm watching a game that's in progress, but I start watching it 20 minutes in, for example, then when the game finishes live, irrespective of where I am in my viewing of it, the broadcast finishes. Yeah, and then I have to clear the cache on my television to get it to reset so that I can go back and watch the recorded version of it.
It's also more delayed now too. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yes,
but I reckon it's like another 5-10 seconds more delayed than it was before.
Yeah. Yeah, and at $40 a month, it's disgusting, and got no option. Anyway, that's a Tuesday Night Live discussion. Let's get back to the game. So, look. I mean, I did have a read of some forums and a bit of Reddit and a bit of Big Footy and all that sort of stuff, and just got a bit of a vibe from the post-match discussion in our community. And, a few people concerned that the win sort of lets Nicks off the hook and all that sort of stuff. I think both can be true because I think it's fairly obvious that the game was won on effort and... his KPI of pressure and ground ball and contested ball was certainly up, which was good. But we've still got a lot of work to do in terms of our ball movement and our skill levels and our delivery into forward 50. So I'm quite happy to celebrate a fantastic win over a massive rival, but still be able to look at the game and go, wow, like a lot of teams would have towed us up, Brownie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think, our transition from the back line, that was really not a lot different. The only thing I think that probably improved this week was some of our close-in, really quick handballs actually landed. Like Miller had a couple of unbelievable quick handballs, split second and hit targets, and a few other players were a little bit better at hitting targets and finding an open player rather than finding a player who was under pressure. So there's a little bit of improvement there, but there was no real, apart from Miller, there was no run and carry. There was no one going past Butts for a handball so that we could, get an extra 15 yards and then release and hopefully hit a target. Laird still did the old, I think he had a couple of effective kicks for the night, but most of them were just either missed the target or went straight up in the air. So our transition from the halfback line. Yeah, that just needs a heap of work. But also, Port in the forward line seem to create more space for someone like Georgiades had 6 effective lead ups where he got hit, where he marked it. 6. One player had more than we had 4 for the whole game. And bearing in mind they had 19 less for inside 50s, that 8 to 4 is a massive disparity. So their leading patterns were creating space for Georgiades to run into, where we were bombing it to Phil Thorpe, who had Alear on him, and Alear was monstering him. And even when Phil Thorpe got his hands on the ball, he dropped it. Probably dropped 5 or 6 that he was in position to mark, and they just got through his fingers. So our forward transition also needs a major bit of work. So yeah, as much as we won the game, I think anyone that watched that game could see if we were playing, a top 6 side, we're not winning that match.
No, and such a disparity in forward 50 entries for so little result says a lot. And I think the one thing that I noticed, and I don't know whether it was more noticeable or whether I was just seeing things, whether it was more noticeable at the game, but one of the issues that we had in moving the ball was that Port had a pretty wide zone, so they were able to cover off between the arcs. They seemed to have a pretty good zone going, and I think, Brownie, that's because they play a lot of their forwards up the ground, and that's a twofold thing. First of all, it doesn't allow us to move the ball when we're transitioning out of defence, but second of all, the ball bounces back in and their forward line is quite open and they don't commit their tools, but they play a lot of blokes, their forward up the ground a bit, and we really struggle to move the ball at times because we were struggling to find options. Because we tend to, when we defend the ground, we tend to sit right back, whereas they were very much focused on defending the between the arcs. Is that how it looked at the ground?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. I think, can't really add more to that. I think you're right on the money.
Thanks, mate. What do you think, big man? You got any opposing view, or are we just going to be happy
boss,
today?
Yeah.
That's not his style, mate. Trust me, it's not.
No. I mean, it's. I think that's one thing that makes such a difference is when you get players with the ball, and we've got some classy players, but a lot of them haven't been in great form or they've been out of the team. And it was fascinating. Shout out to Drugs Are Bad McKay on Big Footy, who said something. So I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said we're so lucky that last passage of play was Miller to Curtin to Cook. The three of our most talented, skillful players were involved, and in that last passage, to win the game. And I'm hoping that as we get these players back in, or we have players who are in the team but are not in peak form, like a Rankin type, that eventually it's going to come together, and we'll actually become much more clinical with our entries inside 50, with our ball movement, and because that was obviously our greatest strength last year. We had games last year where we lost inside 50s but still scored over far more than the opposition, and it just hasn't been the case this year. So I mean, there are personnel missing up there as well. Tex wasn't playing for pretty much the whole game. Fogg's not on the team, and he was out of form before that, and the like. Archie should make a difference too. But yeah, I just think that hopefully it comes together. It could be one of those years where it never does, mate, and we're just waiting for the season to end and hope that just restart it. But while it's still alive in some fashion, I'm hoping that it could be hopefully maybe this game against Richmond. Not saying it's a guaranteed win, but could be a chance for us to finally, oil the machine a little bit and look a bit slicker than we have.
Reckon we're going to be oiling up, Brownie?
Unless if we are just relying on being more clever with the ball and hitting our targets, I don't think anything's going to change. We need to change to a more attacking game style and actually have players running past and actually getting some coverage, breaking up the the opposition's defence. Carrying the ball 15, 20 metres and then releasing it by foot is the way to do it, not just those predictable kicks from a standing start, which is what we're doing. And even with silly things like McAndrew when he had that, which, well, you've got the stand rule. Why is someone not coming past for a handball?
Well,
Just
there
some
should be someone
basic
coming past McAndrew every time. Yeah.
every time. And the same with Butts and the same with Laird, but it doesn't happen. Because he's got him playing this bloody one-dimensional game. And if we don't change that game plan to be more attacking and try to find, because we play our best footy when we go through the corridor and we hit our targets up forward if we can get the ball there quickly. But when you kick it there slowly, and just about every entry we had was a high ball in, and it's just so easy for them to get back and double team. So yeah, I think we've just got to change a lot. We can't just expect the players to do better. I think that they haven't got the weapons in terms of game plan.
Look, I will point a finger at the players a little bit in terms of our forward 50 entries, because some of the stuff I saw when I was rewatching it this afternoon, and some of the leads that were burnt and ignored in favour of a long bomb to Port's prime defender, who was clearly on top, was just inexplicable. And I don't care what the bloody game plan says. You don't burn a bloke who's 20 metres in the clear on the fat side with plenty of grass behind him that you can just lob the ball to him on that side, and he's never going to get defended. And instead of taking that option, you decide to kick it to a 2-on-1 to Aliir. I mean, that it might be how the coach tells them, but honestly, I can't see it. I think that's actually poor decision making, and we've been prone to that over the journey. For all our strengths up forward, not that we had our best forward line in place this week, but for all our strengths up forward, we have never really nailed this connection piece, in my opinion, between midfield and forward, and that's got to be on the assistants. I mean, what are they working on? I don't know.
I tell you what, I was watching the Carlton St Kilda game last night, and it was shockingly evident at times how similar they are to us. And one thing that really stood out to me was when they get the ball off half back, particularly after that first initial kick in, or maybe they intercept the ball at half back, whatever. Players will lead at them, but they don't kick to them. They refuse to lower their eyes and kick to them because they don't trust their foot skills.
Yeah.
To do it, to hit those targets, because they're worried they're going to look like an idiot if they turn it over and cost it a goal. And I feel like we have that issue as well, quite in too many areas of the ground where players are hesitant to take risks. Instead, they just go, to the safe option, which is to a contest and hope for the best there. And which would be great if we were a really good contested ball team, but we haven't really been the case this year. Even our contested marking's down as well. So it feels like that part of especially that part of the system is sort of at odds with the players we have. And I would have thought, well, you got to embrace your, yes, we've got some weaknesses. You got to embrace your strengths. And I think what you're getting at is we don't have it in us. And I think it has to be mostly driven by the coaches to do that. Like, there's times Nick looks frustrated and stuff, and I'm thinking, is he told them that that's something that they're not doing? But it's been consistent now for 8 rounds that this is the way we play. And they brought up that someone brought up the handball meters gained, which is basically 4,000 more meters gained or something by Sydney than us by handball this year already, which is staggering. And I mean, it's working for Sydney, but I know they've got incredibly quick players like Blakey and Wicks and some others.
Well, they also play on a home ground that's conducive to that sort of quick corridor movement. I don't know whether they'd play that game style necessarily all the time if they were playing 10 home games at the MCG. But possibly, I mean, the point is still valid because there's other teams that are miles in front as well.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is, like, we've got a kicking game style, but we've got players who don't want to take any risks with their kicks. So I feel like it's a game style that doesn't suit the players we have, particularly off the half-back line.
And I think that's true. And Brownie, I get back to the win on Friday night, showing us that we do actually have the talent. Yes, Port are a team that's rebuilding, and probably after their first half a dozen players sort of fall off the cliff a little bit in terms of quality. But we do have the talent, in my opinion. I actually think that we've amassed a pretty good squad with probably only one or two holes to finish up. And every team has holes in their squad, but like even Brisbane. If you look at Brisbane, then they're not foolproof in terms of their squad makeup. They're pretty close now, but they've still got every team's got holes and weaknesses. The problem is that we seem to be trying to mould this group of players into a game style that Matthew Nicks philosophically wants us to play, and I've said this for ages, rather than the coaches looking at the makeup of the squad and its strengths and weaknesses and designing a game style that suits that. And mimicking Brisbane when we don't have anywhere near the skill level of Brisbane, just as a path to nowhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. And back to your first point about our list being better than Port, I think we're substantially better than Port, and that is the reason why we beat them. It was just purely it was a talent thing, and as much as it could have gone either way. But I think our bottom 10 players on the field are a lot better than Port's bottom 10. We might have a couple that are probably not quite up to the. I don't think Bond necessarily the last few weeks has been at the level he should have been. But we've also got a few players like Curtin coming back, Rankin's coming back, getting back into it, that have got some real upside as well. And we've got some pretty talented players to come back from the injured list. So I reckon, it's not a personnel thing at all. It's just a matter of, like you say, working out the best style of play to suit the list that you've got. And a high kicking game when you're relying on spotting up targets is not working for us.
No. And look, I don't want to be too negative this week because it was a fantastic win, and I think it's worthwhile focusing on the positives. So, given that it was the players that were the positives, why don't we actually have a look at some? Because there were a few that kind of stepped up. Big man, wasn't there?
Yeah, two in particular that stood out.
Well, I think, I pissed myself laughing on game day because there were a lot of people bagging Sam Murray during the course of the game for fumbling, and they were right. He did fumble a bit. Hey? Berry, sorry. Yeah.
You said Sam Murray. I think he's long retired now.
Yeah, Sam Berry, sorry. He did fumble a bit. But I was staunchly defending him, and then, of course, he bobbed up and won the medal, and I just thought that was poetry. So, but I actually thought that Wayne Miller was the absolute standout for us and was dead set stiff to get not be awarded the. Come on, man. To not get the medal. What did you think, big man?
Well, the poor bloke had kicked the ceiling goal, and that was taken away from him. And then he should have got the medal, and that wasn't given to him either. Yeah, so he. Oh, look, he hasn't played well every game, but I think the majority of games he's been one of our best players, and he'd be winning the best and fairest right now. I'd have to assume.
I'm pretty sure he's winning our best and fairest.
Oh yeah, it's like the
CrowCast, which is the only one that really matters.
No, I think you'd be right. Firstly, the hair is incredibly luscious still, so I think that's definitely helping him. It's well, it's well shampooed and conditioned, but no, look, lustrous. I think, but look, it's a multitude of things. Like, yes, it's his composure of the footy. There's a couple of balls that were. Other players would be pretty shaky around, but he just doesn't care. He seems to be in the zone and doesn't get flustered. Yeah. And obviously his ball use, he's become a bit more attacking this year. He's a bit more forward with his ball use. He's not taking a huge meterage, but when he gets the ball 29, 30 times, or whatever he did on the weekend, that he's still going to have a lot of meters gained. But I just think he's had a more attacking mindset this year, more creative mindset with his ball use.
Yeah.
And also the tough stuff too. Like, he's taking intercept marks, he's winning contested ball. He's actually a rock defensively as well. So it's not just all run off half back and easy touches. He's doing a lot of grunt work in there as well. So that was an outstanding game, and obviously he should have been able to. He kicked the sealer, he wasn't paid, but he was brutally stiff to miss the medal. No shade to Sam Berry, who had a great game and broke nearly. I think he broke the Showdown tackle record and did plenty of good things himself. And I'm sure we'll talk about him soon. But I thought, for me personally, I thought Wayne was a standout as a fourth quarter performer who basically barely made an error or not.
Someone's reached the target for putting the flame on. Well done, whoever that was. I'm not keeping track at the moment. Miller has 16 kicks, 13 handballs, 6 marks, 11 contested possessions, 14 uncontested, 6 rebound 50s and 10 intercepts. And obviously pushed forward and should have kicked the sealer, or did kick the sealer. That was not allowed. So I just think he's having a stellar season, Brownie. It's what we've always hoped for from him. He's probably certainly in the conversation for an All-Australian halfback spot at this early stage of the season, and if he continues that, he will probably rank as one of the better halfbacks in the competition this season.
Oh, I think he's up there with the best now for sure. His some of his working close, how clean he was and how he was actually extracting the ball, gave me a fair bit of confidence that we've got to see him in the midfield at some point, because he's just so bloody clean, and he's one grab, and he didn't turn the ball over once by foot on Friday night, and I don't think he turned it over by hand from what I saw, but he was just so clean all night. I think it's hard to compare him versus Berry when similar disposals. One bloke has 19 tackles, but the other bloke is just super silky. So that's probably, you take, everyone's got a different opinion, and who knows who's right. But I would have probably said his impact on the game was as good as anyone in our team. I would have given him the vote for sure. But I think Alir was pretty unlucky, the poor bugger.
He was stiff as well.
Game as well.
I mean, it would have been an absolute certainty had Port Adelaide won. But stiff shit, in my opinion.
Correct.
One turnover for the night. That's all he had. So you were very close, Brownie. One turnover.
By foot?
I don't know if it was by foot or hand, but he had 29 touches and only one was a turnover.
Okay, yeah, it might have been a handball that just got intercepted or something. But by foot, I watched it, and he didn't turn it over once. It was amazing.
Sam Berry, obviously the Showdown medal winner, and look, he did fumble a bit, but he also just really got to work, especially in the second half when we stepped up our pressure game and started really asking some questions of them in ground ball and contested ball. 18 kicks, 11 handballs, 19 tackles, one off the record, 17 contested possessions, 14 uncontested, 7 inside 50s, 1 centre clearance, 3 stoppage clearances. My thing says 5 clangers, but I thought he had more than that. I thought he had 9 actually. But I could be wrong. I did read that somewhere, but maybe they amended it. But anyway, I thought he was really good. I don't understand the knockers. I know that he's not elite. I know that he's not silky. But every team needs a workhorse. And Sam this year has an ability to really impact the contest at the coalface and extract the ball. And I think that's invaluable, even in the modern game. Don't you think, Brownie?
Yeah, and he's definitely improved his pace to break away from the contest now, and he's finding himself with enough pace that he can actually get the kick away effectively. Most times he can get back on his right foot and kick it. So, like 704 meters gained is a pretty fair effort for a midfielder, and by far our, probably, I think Rankin was second with 500 odd, but it was a pretty enormous game if you just accept the fact that he's going hard, he's tackling so hard, you're gonna get fatigued at times, and you're gonna make a few mistakes and fumble. But you look at what you're getting against what you're missing out on, and he's probably been our best midfielder consistently this year. So you can knock him, but there's no one else that's going to do a better job at the moment.
And I don't think, big man, that anyone's really suggesting that he should be our number one mid. That's not, and I don't even think you can rank midfielders that way. You need to have a complementary rotation, and I think him and Peatling are really good in that in and under workman-like, sort of situation. And then we need Silk on the outside, like Rash and Rankin, and to a lesser extent Saligo. That he can dish to and add the polish. And I think he forms a big part of that, what could be a cohesive midfield.
Yes, I know. I agree. I think that's a bit of a, I don't know. Like I've seen a couple of people say, "Oh, he can't be your first midfielder," and I don't think that's the case anyway. Is it? I think most agree that. Well, personally, I think Rankin's our best pure midfielder in terms of his craft around stoppage, and Dawson's our best midfielder in terms of his overall ability and what he's in production. But so I don't classify that as, and obviously, well, Dawson's not even the team, so it's obviously put a bit more emphasis on Berry in terms of his role in the team, and he's obviously getting a lot more time on the ground, time at centre bounce, and he's been in consistent games now. And I think he's had a couple of games in 18, 19 touches, but most of this year he's been in the 20s, which is a fair step up from what he's done in previous years, where he'd often have games in the low teens. And I know disposals ain't everything, but to me, it just shows that he's a player that's growing in confidence, that has grown just at his acclimation to the level. It's not an easy gig, playing AFL footy, and he's got some warts, and we all know that. But I like the fact it's just become much more consistent from week to week. He's I know he's fumbly last week, but in general, I think he's been pretty consistent performer who's definitely stepped up a gear. And hopefully when we get troops back and one or two guys come through, it lessens the load of him a bit. But I do agree there is a time and a place for a guy like him. You don't just lay 19 tackles by chance. That's a guy who has an intent to do that. But and it wasn't even a wet game or anything either, so it wasn't like that. So no, I agree. I think I've still got some reservations about him long term, and it'll be curious to see his trade value, because obviously he's out of contract. And Tom Morris was saying,
there you go again.
Hang on. Tom Morris, I bring this up because Tom Morris was talking about on Crunch Time, and he said that Victorian clubs will be chomping at the bit to get him. And I'll be curious to see if that's actually the case. Adam Simpson said, I don't think that would be the case, that he thinks that he's just a good, honest player. And I'll be interested to see what other clubs think of him, because at the moment I think it'd be our best intentions to try and re-sign him, because I think he's proven himself at the level now. I think he's shown that he's a consistently solid AFL player, and that's improvement for where he was the last few years.
I mean, people consistently wanted Matt Crouch to play, even when Matt Crouch was running in mud. Sam Berry is Matt Crouch with more tricks, and people want to get rid of him. I don't understand it. Like, is he just not pretty enough? What's the deal?
That's a what was the name? Kelly? Was it Kelly? What's that?
Casey Chambers.
Casey. That's a good bop, that one, isn't it? That's your sort of music, isn't it, boss? Casey Chambers.
What did you just say? What did you just say then? That's a good bop. What the hell?
It's good. It's a good tune,
you get sin bin for that. Honestly, I might actually kick you off for a week saying that. Anyway, I don't want to labour the point, but I'm right and everyone else is wrong about Sam Berry. Isaac Rankin, in the second half, you blokes, I just noticed, and it was probably predicated by that goal that he kicked, but I just noticed Isaac just starting to hunt again, and it really excited me to see that, because that's when he's at his best, when he's hunting in the contest as well as just outside the contest. And he was a bit fumbly early and took him a little while, but he really got engaged after he kicked that goal, and he was quite instrumental in the third quarter, and then again in the last. He had 15 kicks, 8 handballs, 5 tackles, 12 contested, 12 uncontested possessions, 3 inside 50s, 3 centre clearances, 2 stoppage clearances. And like I said, I just felt like in the second half in particular, he definitely showed signs of life.
Yeah, I think what you said about after he kicked that goal, he just seemed to get some confidence out of that, I think, and that sparked him. And as you said, he was hunting. He was just making that real concerted sprint to the ball, and he wasn't getting every one, but the intent was there. And he was actually using the ball pretty well in the second half. Like I think he had 500 odd meters gained, and he was generally hitting targets. He had a couple that didn't go where they should have, but he looked a lot more like the Isaac of sort of late last year.
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of he's just going to develop and get a bit better every week. But I mean, at the level he played, the other thing I liked about him is when he's playing good footy, he tackles, and when he's not switched on, he doesn't have that defensive side of his game, and he actually laid 4 or 5 tackles, I reckon, and showed some real intent with that as well. So yeah, it was a big improvement.
Yeah, he gets up in players' grills when he's lighting up, and I just felt like you said, Brownie, like a bit more frontal pressure, going for his tackles, hunting the ball in close. Just looked like he got really engaged, and hopefully that's the start of a more enjoyable time for him in 2026, I think. Who else have we got here? Benny Keys, who for a long time on the ground was actually the highest rated player in terms of AFL rating points. Had 10 kicks, 8 handballs, 5 tackles, 9 contested, 13 uncontested, 3 inside 50s, and obviously kicked 3 goals. Look, I thought it was a better performance from Keezy. He didn't make a lot of mistakes, and he worked really hard. So another player that maybe is rediscovering his form, and obviously the goals that he kicked kept us in the game.
Did you ask me? Sorry. Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I'll go.
You guys work it out.
Well, I noticed we still kicked maybe a couple of times long to him as the key target. I feel like we needed. I know sometimes that's just how it happens. You can't always be, to have, when you don't have many options, mate. You just got to go who you see. But I'd still love for that not to be the case because he can't mark. But I think everything else he did was great. I love how invested he was. He was sort of brought that energy that flowed for the rest of the team. His tackling and pressure was great. I think it's easy to look at the flaws in Keys' game, because obviously, the kicking a goal isn't always too pretty, and he's prone to giving away the odd stupid free or making a costly mistake. But he does a lot good too, doesn't he? I think it's just his ability to stay involved in games, and he rarely has a quiet game. He usually gets his hands on it. And he's on track for about a 30-goal season at this point in time. And that's despite a slow start. I think we all agree his first few games weren't crash hot. So I think in general his last month's been pretty solid. He was one of many that didn't have a good game the other night, the other day against Brisbane. But no, he was great. And 3 goals from a small forward who plays quite high up the ground at times. I was pretty happy with his game. I'm surprised he was that highly rated by Champion Data, but because he wasn't in the mix for me even earlier in the game. I think a few others probably were having better games, but no, I was pretty happy with Keezy's game.
I must just did I get that right? Yeah, I did get that right. Sorry, my that thing's just playing funny buggers, so I'll just read off the AFL stats to make sure that I'm getting it right. Another bloke that I thought Brownie really stepped up in the second half and was instrumental in cooling off, I think it was Horn Francis that he was on, was James Peatling. Ended up with 25 disposals, 13 kicks, 12 handballs, 5 tackles, 4 clearances, 472 metres gained. I just felt, Brownie, that he he seems to really come alive after half time. He's probably got to work on his starts, but he did a really good job on their engine room after half time.
Yeah, I think he spent after halftime. He spent a bit of time on Butters as well.
Mm.
But with both of them, he was noticeably playing more of a defensive role that second half. We had to do something with Butters because he was just getting out of control early. Yeah, both him and Horn Francis were getting clear air and kicking the ball forward. So no, he had a pretty good game. He's just in and under and just goes so hard. He's a good tackler. Like he just gives 100%. He might have been a little bit quiet early. I don't know. Yeah, what that's about. But then again, we've been that way all year. Had quite a few players who have taken a while to get going. But his second half was exceptional.
Yeah,
Yeah,
6
really
inside 50s, 5 score involvements, 7 intercept possessions, and 12 contested possessions. That sort of output is what we want from James, and his ability to accumulate that many touches whilst also calming Butters down or Horn Francis, or I think he kind of interchanged between the two a little bit, was really positive for us, and it allowed some of our other prime movers to go to work. Now, the match winner, Mr. Cook, I've said this a couple of times, and I will say it again, big man. What we're seeing from Braden Cook now, I think he could actually be one of the best midfielders, pure midfielders in the competition if we decide to develop him that way.
As an inside midfielder?
As a midfielder, not a wingman, as a midfielder.
Or I think a lot would need to improve in terms of his ground ball and his intensity and ability to break tackles and all those things. I like him. I kind of like him where he is at the moment, mate.
Oh yeah, I know, but he's evasive. He's composed. He's got a great kick. He's got a lot of the attributes that you want. Reminds me of old mate D. Jarman in a lot of what he does. And I like him at the wing as well. But some of the stuff that I've been seeing, he I'm not saying this year, but I think he could develop his game to actually become a midfielder in the AFL, in my opinion.
Look, he's come a long way with his competitiveness, and I've noticed he's definitely improved his strength and ability to get around tacklers, and he's very good at that sort of spinny move as he's getting tackled to still release a handball. I'm not sure playing majority, in the guts would amplify his strengths. I think they're best suited at the moment to having more space where he can be more creative, run with the ball, do the odd selling the dummy and all that. I don't mind the idea. I just think, at the time being, anyway, with his skill set, I think are better suited on where he is at the moment.
And this is why, Brownie. This is why people like Bigman, who bloody followed Crows all their life and all that sort of stuff. That's why the Crows get nowhere, because they don't make these big calls.
Oh, no.
They don't make these big calls. I've stopped talking to you now, big man. I'm talking to Brownie. I've stopped talking to you.
I'm going to sit on the fence. I think you should have a wager on it.
Nah, I'm just saying. I just don't want. I'm not the type who sees a guy that steps up and think, oh, he's a midfielder. He can be a midfielder now, because he's good. I just think that his strengths and weaknesses are of a player who's more of a utility outside type.
I'm not that person either. I'm not saying as soon as someone gets good, he's got to be in the midfield. I just see qualities. I see qualities in him that I think would be very useful as a genuine midfielder. And I'm not saying right now. And he's very good on the wing, and I think he can, you could say the same about Dan Curtin. Everyone wants him in the midfield, but he's quality on the wing as well. So,
but Dan's always had, he's got that frame and that ability to break tackles.
Don't give me the butt. It's exactly the same. You want to move Curtin from bloody the wing to the midfield. What's wrong with poor Braden?
Because Cookie,
You're
Cookie
racist,
hasn't
man.
he just doesn't have the frame or that grit that like Dan is, like, you see him when he gets the ball, you can't tackle him. He's always going to be able to release it. I'm not
Scott
convinced the
Pendlebury
same for Cookie.
got a frame.
Well, not necessarily, but
Yeah.
he's been playing midfield since his junior basketball days. If you didn't know, he used to play basketball.
Oh, apparently that shocked me when I heard that.
No, but I just on Cook. I'm so rat for him. Like, I mean, not that I'm tooting my own horn or anything, but like, he was one of the ones that I really made.
Here we go.
He was one of the ones that I really made a comment about how early in the preseason he just looked like he was rolling and ready to roll. And
Sorry, Big Man's just dropped out.
No, the good thing is that's flowed, and sometimes you get false economies, but this time it's actually flowed into the real thing, and he couldn't have been that much more impressive. I think he's just been so consistent. Almost every week he's found a way to get involved, and his last 3 or 4 games in particular, he's just a great outlet player. He's starting to take marks. He's obviously got more confident because he's dancing around players, selling candy, and now he's kicking match winners on the run. So full credit to Braden. He's having a great year.
Yeah, 21 touches, 13 kicks, 8 handballs, 7 marks, 3 tackles, 429 metres gained. Brownie is exactly what we wanted out of him on the wing, and he's delivering. What else did he have here? 4 inside 50s, 3 score involvements, 7 contested possessions, which sort of contradicts the fact that he's a light softcock. He can actually go in and get the ball, big man. So Brownie, he's been a real success, probably the success story so far this year, maybe alongside Lockie McAndrew in terms of progress.
Yeah, in terms of progress, very similar. Like guys that they were question marks at the beginning of the year. Are they going to make the level, make the standard? McAndrew obviously has been unbelievable, but yeah, Cookie's just grown in confidence. And again, as we say, you give them enough games to find their feet, get their confidence, and they repay you. And he's running and carrying as well a lot more now, which is a sign of his confidence. But as you said, the important thing is when he runs and carries, he generally finds a target. He doesn't waste the ball too often. And that kick off the sort of outside of his boot to win the game was just ridiculous.
It was crazy. If you look at that photo that's been published a bit, and you see the angle of his body and the direction of his foot, and the fact that he's kicked that inside out and slotted it, it wasn't on the outside of his boot. He just directed his foot the right way, Jad. It was just brilliant, and so much composure for a kid under those circumstances. And you could tell after the game, you wouldn't have seen the interview maybe, but I think he was a little bit rattled. He said himself he was a bit rattled, and I think it was taking a little bit to sink in. But that means he's just acting on instinct, and if that's his instincts, then we got a lot of fun watching Braden ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other I thought was a welcome return to form was Jake Saligo again, particularly in the second half. I thought it took him a little while to work his way into it. But he ended up with 22 touches, 12 and 10. He had 3 marks, 4 tackles, 5 clearances, 306 metres gained. And good for him, he was over 70% time on ground too. So no question over his motor at the moment, which was obviously a bit of a concern. 4 inside 50s, 5 score involvements. Only went at 54.5%, but 11 contested possessions to go with his 13 uncontested. And as I said, he was probably the first bloke in the third quarter to drop the eyes and actually deliver to a target up forward instead of just banging it on someone's head.
Yeah, I think he had 2 inside 50s that actually, out of his 4, that actually hit a target. And we only had 4 for the game, so he certainly did his job. But yeah, his work rate was really good. He was tackling. I think it just took him a while to get into the game after a bit of time off. And obviously, he had a belter in the sample the week before, but the speed of the game at AFL level was so different. So I think it took him a while to get into it. But once he got into it, he was, and especially the second half was really good. Pity, could have had a goal as well, but, we've already talked about that. That's just the way it goes. But no, it was a pretty solid contribution.
You're off mute, big man.
Oh, thanks. But no, I concur with Brownie. I just like seeing he's a bit of a zip and energy back in his game. In those first few rounds, it looked like he was always falling over and had no full strength or energy, which is usually the case of someone who just lacks fitness and was fatigued, all the time. Whereas now, or at least the last 2 weeks, being the SANFL and then obviously on the Showdown, just looks like he's much more in line with what we expect from Solly in terms of his because we all know he's a hard nut, but it's just those little extra things he does that separate him from just a good average player, and I think we saw more signs of that on Friday night. Still not the complete package of what we know he can do, but it was much more encouraging, and hopefully he can rebound this year and particularly in the second half of the year really find his feet and become that midfielder that we know he could be.
Yeah. Now, don't forget those in Discord, if you want to have your say, if you think we're talking shit, or if you just want to shut us up for a minute, feel free to come on, put your hand up, and I will get you on for a chat. And in YouTube, if you want your comment read out and discussed, just chuck in a super chat and we will do so. One more, Joshua Shelley. I'm not sure. Do either of you know what his CBA stat was? I haven't seen it.
It was I want to say 13, so he's basically the same as Rankin.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. So I'm just gonna have a quick look. All right, so here it is. Oh no, sorry, he had 5. Shit, okay, I'm thinking last week.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it wasn't that high.
Yeah, so he went. Berry had the most, then Rankin just one less. So Rankin was essentially almost a full-time mid. Yeah. Then Saligo, Peatling on 17 each, and then it dropped all the way down to Rochelle with 5. So essentially, he was the 5th banana there.
Yeah, interestingly, we started the third quarter with both him and Ranks in the first centre bounce there. 13 touches, 10 kicks, 3 handballs, 2 marks, 4 tackles, only 243 metres gained. He had 81% time on ground. Where are we? Where'd you go? There you are. 2 inside 50s, 8 score involvements, so he was busy in that regard. But went at 53.8% disposal efficiency, so a bit down there. I noticed that he like when he was playing up the ground, his ability to run both ways is still pretty limited, big man. Did you notice that being at the ground?
Yeah, there was one play in the first quarter.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yes, where he was. There's a guy on the wing that was running, and he wasn't chasing. It was very half-hearted, and that's in front of the bench too. So like you got to be careful with that stuff. Like we talked about his leadership, and I still maintain I think he's a really strong leader for us, and particularly the youth coming through. But he's got to be better than that. Especially that early in the game. I think it was maybe 10 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Where you should be obviously, yes, we all feel a bit puffed early on in the game, but you can't be doing that. And things like that. And there was another one where he couldn't get back on the field in the first quarter, and he was on the bench, and the camera was on him, and he was just like shaking his head. And like I know he's an emotive guy, that's how he is, but you just like to see him just, maybe rein that back in a bit, because I just don't like the energy that gives out.
A little bit more positive he needs to be.
Yeah,
although he was probably bloody frustrated with the way the ball was coming in, to be honest.
Oh, no doubt. But I just think the whole woe is me and stuff. Like, I love when he's getting around players, and it's so much about him, but his teammates as well. And he's come a long way in that regard, but I still think he slips every so often. He slips back into that mindset a little bit. Obviously, still managed to have a pretty decent game. He was off target early. He had a couple of chances that normally he would swallow up, but it stopped him from having a much bigger game. He had probably a 4 or 5 goal game that went begging there. But he just one of those players that just does some ridiculous things, like that tap back to Thilthorpe, who credit to Thilthy too. That was an awesome left foot snap in a game where he couldn't mark or kick goals.
Yeah.
But it was overshadowed by how good the bloody assist was from Rankin. Just not many players have that ability to conjure up things like that on the fly. So no, he's a special player. I agree though. I did notice that, and that was definitely, if you ever rewatch the game, watch his chase in the first quarter. I'm sure he copped it back from that at some point.
Yeah. Jake Sauce in YouTube chat said that he was wearing the green cap at training during the week, so whether he's carrying a little niggle or not, I'm not sure. But if your niggle is such that it stops you from defensively chasing halfway through the first quarter, then it's a bigger problem. That being said, I'm still surprised that he's not getting as much of a run through the middle, because we all know how good he is at extracting the ball, and I just wonder whether we can use him a little bit more creatively in terms of getting him involved around the contest, but then swinging him forward a little bit, rather than just have him run a normal midfield rotation, Brownie.
Yeah, I was surprised that he was used so sparingly. I would have thought he should be in there as much as Rankin. His conversion, so getting clearances, is probably, I think early in the year you said his stats were he had the best conversion of anyone. He's a ball magnet
in the world. In the world.
But he just he is a ball magnet, and he should be run through there a bit more often. The other thing I noticed with him on the weekend, a couple of times he turned the ball over kicking on his left foot when he didn't actually have to kick on his left foot. Did a bit of a Tyson Edwards and
Bit of Tyson Edwards, yeah.
to kick on his left. Yeah, and he's just going to straighten up, because he could have kicked both with his right foot, and he probably would have been a bigger chance of hitting a target. And both times he turned it over. So he wasn't clean, and even the goals, he missed 3 goals that you would normally, from 20 metres out, that you'd normally expect him to kick. So it wasn't his best game, but it wasn't a shocker, that's for sure.
Now we've got Arab in the chat with his hand up, and we always like to hear what Arab's got to say, so come on board, mate, and tell us what you think.
Hello, guys. How are you guys going?
Very good.
Yeah,
Very well, Arab.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I don't know if it's just our team or other teams do it, but Matthew Nix keeps saying this thing about managing players in game and decreasing their game time some week and increasing the game times next week. And I think
You got a fair bit of Ken Hinkley about you at the moment, Arab. Just speak up a little bit, mate.
Sorry. No, I'm just talking about Matthew Nix and how he keeps saying that we need to manage players in game and sometimes give him more game time, sometimes give him less game time. And I think that we're really, under not utilizing that properly. Like with the situation with Tex last week and Saligo and even Filthy in some ways, where it's just like we're either playing them too injured or we're not giving them enough game time. And I just don't know what you guys think of the game time management that we're using at the moment, because to me it just seems like all over the place.
It's so hard to know, isn't it? Because I was pretty solid on Tex getting arrested, and I can't wait to play Hate So to Macca on Tuesday night. But we're assuming that some players are carrying stuff. We're assuming, for example, that Riley Thilthorpe's got a bad back and all that, and we're giving them a bit of an out on their performances in that regard. But we don't really know. I mean, Big Man, you might have some insight that the rest of us don't have. But it is hard to work out how they're actually managing certain players at certain times, isn't it?
Yeah, I've always been a proponent of not playing players who have niggles or injured, because I think that usually your performance is lower than the player that would replace you if they were fully fit. Obviously, there's levels to that, and particularly when it comes to key position players and whatnot, that you structure your team around. But you one thing you notice, like if you go to training the earlier session in the week after a game, that a lot of them are walking and running around like old men. They're really still stiff and sore, and bruised up, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on during games that wears you down, and then of course there are cop injuries and niggles where it's just hard to recover from that, even with like 8 or 9 day breaks. And we're coming off a 5-day break as well, and not to forget that, of course, is and of course, maybe 1 or 2 players shouldn't have played, but I digress. But yeah, he's an interesting one. Filthy's a great example of that, where it's like, well, the club obviously feels he's too good not to play, and he's not injured enough not to play either. But at the same time, you can clearly tell he's still hampered. And I guess the hope is that if you don't play him minutes here or there, or less and low, we don't obviously play him in the ruck anymore, that hopefully at some point in the season he'll regain his fitness. And I think Worrell was talking about that the other day. I heard an interview with him on 5AA, and he was talking about how there was a couple of games earlier this season where he was said he was touch and go and almost didn't make it to the line. But he feels like he's past that point now, and he feels a lot fresher. So that's the idea. But sometimes players just can't get it back, and it's not until the end of the season that they tend to need that time off. Usually they get surgery because there's something wrong with them. So this stuff's tough, and I'm no doctor, so I'm obviously not in charge. But it does frustrate me, Arab, when we have players like Tex, who blind Freddie could see he shouldn't have travelled over to Brisbane, and then he gets managed to that game anyway. But that doesn't account for the bloody sitting in a plane for 3.5 hours. That stuff adds up. 5 days later, it does a hamstring. So even the guys in charge who are qualified and have all the doctorates in the world, they still make stupid decisions as well.
Is it fair to say, Brownie, that it's enough of a trend now that we need to shine a bit of a torch on McEwen, the guy that took over from Burgess as our strength and conditioning manager? Brownie?
Brownie?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. You dropped out there for a sec, so I didn't hear you.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, you would say something has changed, potentially changed from last year, because we're certainly having more soft tissue injuries. But it can also be coincidence. So it really is difficult to say. You probably need to talk to the club internally to get a feel for it. But I do it from what Bigman said, the things they can control, they're not controlling well. Like, as you said, taking Tex to Brisbane was just a stupid move. And I think all of us were calling that stupid. So we're not talking in hindsight. We were saying it the week before. And I reckon even with Thilthorpe, I mean, the commentators have been saying he's got a back, so they must have heard something from internally from the club. But I wouldn't be risking him. His kicking is definitely not smooth. He's not kicking the ball with that same smooth action that he normally does. So you'd suggest that if his back's impacting him, it's actually impacting his kicking, because he's just not kicking as clean. He's just normally a beautiful clean kick, and he's pushing everything right now. So I think something's wrong, and I'd definitely be resting him and giving him a bit of a spell.
Well, the biggest issue that I see, Arab, is with Thilthorpe in particular, is just that he's just continually running on the ball because he doesn't want to get contact from behind, and it's almost embarrassing. And it reminds me of his first season, where he was probably just a shade contact shy and was doing the same thing, was kind of running under the ball, and we're back to that again. And if his back is such that he can't tolerate contact from behind, or if it's affecting him, there's no point in being out there, in my opinion.
No, you're 100% right. That's what I'm saying is, like, we can see the players are struggling, so why are they still there? And even the players are not struggling, and it's like, I think the reason to why, for example, Red Shelley is getting less CBAs is probably because they're trying to manage him. But you're doing that at the cost of the game. I feel like Rochelle should be more in the midfield, especially when the game is on the line. Like in the last quarter, I should have spent more time in there with Isaac Rankin to get that attack, to get that balance right. But I feel like we're focusing on resting him in game. And the same thing could be said for people, for like Isaac and earlier in the year when he wasn't in there. Oh, we're just trying to manage him through it. Just put him in there and let him sort it out. Like it doesn't. Yeah, that's the pattern that I'm noticing is that it's not just those players that are injured. It's actually even the players that are not injured. They're not being played in there properly. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me, mate. Big man.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I got to reiterate, I'm not in the inner sanctum. I'm not a doctor. I don't know exactly some of these things, but I do agree that there's been a few instances this year. We talk about the Tex one, but there was also the Mitch Hinge one, where it just seems like the player management has been great. Even Dan Curtin, I thought maybe came back a week early. In the end, he had some really important moments, particularly in the second half, which helped us win the game. So I guess in that sense it worked. But he looked like a player that was still getting his mojo back. He was pretty reluctant to leap for marks, and his aerial stuff. He's fumbling a few that he absolutely snatched last year. So I worry sometimes that we're so worried about the wins and loss column that we don't just have a bit more patience with some players. And I think we saw that with Archie as well as another example. Because re-injury is so easy to happen, and we're not the only team we're not the only teams that are having a lot of injuries this year. I mean, look at Richmond, but there's others as well. But it's disappointing because we were such a step above the competition last year with player management, and it's easy when you're winning because you can afford to rest more players. But it's obviously it's backfired this year, and we've put ourselves in a bit of a hole with our list. Thankfully, we've got some soldiers coming back, but unfortunately, we've got a couple coming out now. After we've got obviously no Tex and Butts are out this week, so it just hasn't quite clicked this year for whatever reason. I think they would have to do some looking into gym work and the loads placed on players' backs and legs, and see if there's any correlation there. Something that's not quite right. Maybe it's a post-Burgess effect. I'm not sure. I know there's Melbourne people talk about how many injuries they got after Burgess left, so maybe there's an adjustment issue there.
Well, that's true, actually. Now that you mention that, I do recall that.
I think Port Adelaide talk about that too. Port supporters in 2015. So yeah, it's something to think about. But I still don't want to give that an excuse. I think there's something clearly wrong there, and it might take into the off season before they are able to address it, and get back on the track.
Thanks, Arab. Anything else you'd like to add, mate?
No, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks for participating, mate.
Cheers, Arab.
Always a good contributor, and if anyone else wants to have their say on that or any other topic, well, not any other topic, but any other topic regarding this match, then feel free to stick your hand up. Probably that's it. We also played Alex Neil-Bullen, who clearly wasn't right. He was struggling with his knee and had to get seen to a couple of times, and A&B didn't play terribly, but just another example of, going to the well with a bloke who's only just barely getting over the line. So,
just on A and B, boss, did you notice how many times you get the ball around the wing and kick long to a shallow forward 50 entry?
Yes.
I'd love to see him lower the eyes a bit more. For a guy, he doesn't have like a super boot, but he kept kicking like just inside forward 50 to a contest instead of having that first, that extra kick to then go inside 50. It felt like he was way too often. He would just go long.
Yep.
You noticed it?
I don't think he actually used the ball terribly well. He got caught a lot, and I don't think he used the ball terribly well. But I've got to be frank with you. I'm not a big A&B fan.
I mean, he's
what I thought he was going to be bringing. I don't think he brings it. So, he's got a lot of good qualities in terms of leadership, but on field, I'm not seeing it.
His efficiency looks good on paper because it's 82%, but you got to remember that long kick to contest count as an efficient kick.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if anyone watched the replay, watch how many times he would take a mark around half forward / on the wing, and instead of just going short before going forward, he actually just kicks it long to about 45 metres out to a contest, which never works. So that was a bit annoyed by that.
Yeah, I don't want to rag on blokes, and obviously, but he only had 2 score involvements. He had 380 odd metres game, but as you say, if you keep kicking the ball long down the line, that's what you're going to get. I don't know. For some reason, I just expected more from him from his time at Melbourne. Sometimes you watch other teams and you have a a skewed impression of certain players, but I just expected more from him. All right. Who else you want to talk about? Anyone?
Brownie?
Burton, you just raised him a minute ago, big man. I thought he just worked himself into the game and, like you said, didn't have big numbers, but did some really good, clean work in the second half by foot and by hand, including that sort of give that got to Cook and won us the game. But yeah, it's just exciting having him back. He's just so clean. He's obviously marking. That'll be take him a few games to get back into it, but he's got that to come because he's a 8-10 market game kind of player if he's playing on the wing. But just his ball use, if we can get him using the ball, lowering the eyes and spotting up a target in forward 50, that's something really to look forward to because we've been crying out for it.
Yeah. I noticed he didn't attend any centre bounces, and I wonder if that was always the plan or that was because Tex went out and he essentially had to play as another key forward. He did start in the forward line, so I'm wondering if that was always the plan. But no, you're right. I love the fact that he was still in the van. A few times there, he was on the wing or in the forward line. He was capable of taking quite a few marks. He just couldn't hold him, which tends to happen with a bit of rust. But you're right. His class and ball use really stood out as he got more into the game. He had 3 goal assists. Would have been 4 if not for the Saligo goal being overturned. I mean, that's elite in its own right when you have 9 touches and almost half of them with bloody goal assists. He's just pure class, and you can't teach that stuff. And I just hopefully he can get a clear run on it, and I think we'll see him build his form up into the bye, maybe post bye he can really get going as an inside mid.
Yeah. A couple of people mentioned Borlase. I thought he had a pretty good game. A couple of times he got done on the lead, but that was more about the delivery coming in than anything that James did, and gives us options. Of course, Nick Murray got dropped last week, which was a little bit surprising, but could have just been horses for courses situation. Who knows? But I would imagine now with Butts out, we might see Nick Murray back in and James retain his spot. He's for all his limitations, he's having a really good season, Brownie.
Yeah, I think he's not quick, and as you say, he's going to get beaten on the fast lead. But the balls were just really well delivered, so you can't knock him. No one was going to do any better. In the air, I think he's not too bad. His ability to spoil. Notice of his kicking. Is his kicking
He's
strong?
quite skillful. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's to have a big man that can use the ball would be good because that's the only negative I think with Butts and Murray is that they both turn the ball over a fair bit or just kick to contests. So if we can have another tool that can actually hit a target, spot up someone 30 metres away, that'd be pretty handy.
Yeah. He's a bit shorter, but he's very broad and quite strong. So he's certainly, that's probably what's been his limiting factor, hasn't it, big man? The fact that he is not quite key position defender high in the modern game. But the best thing about Borlase playing is hearing Dwayne Russell's salty tears about the fact that he should have been a father-son for Port Adelaide. That's the best thing about it.
I've actually grown to like Dwayne quite a bit in recent times, but you're right. He loves bringing up where players were drafted and came from, and he doesn't mind mentioning Borlase's Egyptian roots. But
I don't think he's talking about his personal life, just where he was born.
No, but but I will say I'm wrapped for Boz. He actually came in unenforced, which is pretty rare when we make those sort of changes, particularly our key backs. And he deserved it. He's been in ripping form in the SANFL, and he did nothing wrong in his couple of stints at AFL level. Yeah, I know Georgiades obviously got him on the lead a couple of times. He wasn't meant to play on Georgiades to begin with, but obviously Butts then had the adductor issue. And but Georgiades, he is super quick. Like, he is so quick off the mark. He's not the only one that's taught Borlase isn't the only defender that's been torched on the lead by Mitch this year or in previous years as well. So I'm really happy for him. I think his ability to intercept, get a spoil, and he's one of the highest spoilers in the comp, but he can also take an intercept grab. As you mentioned, Boss, his ball use, he's not a butts type. He's actually pretty pretty solid with his ball skills. He's a decent kick. He's not Braden Cook, but he's able to hit targets and won't just go long down the line for the sake of it because he can't hit really risky kicks. So with Butts now out, he becomes a mainstay for the next 3 to 4 weeks, up into the bye at least. So hopefully he grabs his opportunity, and he's another one a bit like Berry. He's out of contract this year, so he'll be interesting to see what we do because I think he's shown his worth to us as depth because we've copped injuries to both Butts and obviously Mark Keane. But playing well at AFL level, other clubs are going to come knocking as well. I reckon key defenders are very popular, in the trade market. So I'd like to see. Hopefully, we stick with him. But it's hard for him too because I'm sure he's appreciating getting the opportunity right now. But he knows deep down that he's not. He's still third, fourth fiddle when everyone's back. So that's a tough decision for him to make. But I have no doubt we'd be willing to re-sign him again if he's up for it.
Yeah, I think he's worthwhile not persisting with. I don't think he's ever going to be number one bunny as a defender, but he's certainly extremely valuable as a backup option, in my opinion.
Great. Just another player, Boss, because I know we've been pretty positive about guys. And this is one guy who was having a good preseason, who unfortunately, for whatever reason, it hasn't flowed into the real thing, and that's Hugh Bond. And I think what I worry about right now with Bondy is that there's two things. There's one, he's very he's a bit skittish around the ball when in intense situations deep in defence, which you got to be a cool, calm head. Look at Wayne Miller. I know Wayne's got a lot more years on him, but he just even Max. Max is much more composed than he was at the moment. But he's actually starting to lose one-on-one contests now and get goals kicked on him. That was the case in multiple times on Friday night, and it's not a one-off. He's had a few bad games in a row. Do we persist, or with Nankervis having a good game in the SANFL, would you like to make a change there?
Well, personally, Brownie, I don't know about you, but I'd like to let Bond maybe regain a little bit of confidence in the twos, and Nankervis or even Oscar Ryan, for that matter, come through and have a look.
Yeah, I think I'm a big Bond fan, but I've been a bit disappointed with the last 3 to 4 weeks. I think he's, as Bigman said, he's been losing contests. Some of his disposals been average at best, and his positioning isn't always good. I just don't think he's in a good space in terms of confidence at the moment. And if you haven't got confidence in defence, you're not worth much. So I would say Nankor or Oscar would be good. I'd love to see Nank because I think if we don't start playing him, we're going to lose him. So I'd love to see them give him a 4 or 5 week stint where he can actually get a bit of confidence. But yeah, I think I'll be surprised if Bond's playing next week. That's for sure.
Yeah, Reggie in the chat says, how good was Hinckley's bias in the commentary box? Thanks for the contribution, Reggie. Much appreciated as always. I usually like Kenny, but he's a bit snide when it comes to Port and the Crows, and he's a bit snide in some of his commentary on Friday night, and plus he doesn't project his voice. He tends to get quiet, and that annoyed the hell out of me. So I don't mind him when he's not commentating us, but I think he can stay away from Crows games.
You mentioned, sorry, Brad, I was going to say, you mentioned before, Boss, that Arab was quiet, and you said don't be like Ken Hinkley. I thought I was the only one who noticed how bloody quiet his voice is. He doesn't raise his voice. It's always this one monotone level, and it gets swallowed up by the crowd and stuff. You notice that too?
Oh, 100%. And he doesn't project his voice at all, and he doesn't like the more excited he gets, the quieter he's one of those blokes that talks more quietly when he wants to be heard, because he makes people want to like have to listen to him, which is a technique, but it doesn't work in commentary. You got to project your voice and speak clearly. And I found it frustrating listening to him. And then some of his actual comments were just a little bit too biased. I didn't mind him sort of being a bit port biased because we obviously had Rashudo, but some of it was a bit snide and a bit, don't really like that, Kenny. What do you think, Brownie? You watched it back?
I thought early he was clearly biased. I thought there were a couple of incidents, like with the Saligo goal. He was pretty strong on that there was not enough evidence there for them to turn that. So he was pretty balanced in some areas, but when it got to free kicks and it was important parts of the game, he got a bit emotion. He let his emotions sort of take over, and he just showed his bias probably when he shouldn't be. Like Rashudo is a Crows diehard, but I would argue Rashudo was a lot more balanced in his comments.
Well, sometimes he's a bit too much the other way, in my opinion. Tries to overcompensate.
Right, tries not to be biased, so he goes too far. But Kenny definitely shows a bias, but I thought, it got a bit better throughout the times. Goal, he was the first one to say, "Oh no, there was a push in the goal square," but he never came back and said, "Oh, that wasn't a free." He was just happy to take the kick.
Yeah, the good one was in the last 10 seconds when Ollie Wines had an air swing and he couldn't help himself. He's like, "Oh, Ollie,"
So sorry, boss. Before, in case we don't mention him, you mentioned actually before the podcast that you thought Toby Murray was one of our best players. So you were pretty happy with this game?
I was, I thought he presented himself well up forward. He's got a lot of work to do in terms of his body positioning in contested mark situations, and it makes me wonder sometimes what they're actually working on with these. But I've come to a conclusion, big man, and I was going to ask you this, and this kind of reminds me. Do you ever see at training, when you observe training, do you ever see them break out and do any individual skills training? Do you ever see a bloke like who's the ex-Port guy we've got? Honch? Our defensive. Do you ever see Honch pull someone aside and just go through like positioning in a marking contest or something like that, 1-on-1?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that's definitely a rare thing. They do obviously split into groups, and the line coach will chat about this and that, and they will give feedback at times to individual players. So it does happen.
But I think feedback's different to coaching, though.
Yeah, I think it's especially evident with like a Balderstone. He'll be, because it's obviously less players to work with the rucks, for instance. But I would imagine the majority of that sort of one-on-one stuff is behind, closed doors, with the tape and the, on the tablet and stuff like that, and they'll go through games and highlights and all that, rather than actually on the park itself, because there's obviously so many players. You got 40+ players to manage, even for the line coaches individually.
40
that's
plus
still like
fucking coaches, for God's sake.
Well,
we've got development coaches. That's what they're there for.
I mean, they'll yell out stuff. I just don't know if they're having like deep and meaningfuls, all that often on the boundary line, for instance.
I'll tell you one thing that occurred to me when I was watching the Collingwood-Hawthorn game on Thursday night is that they were a team that, yes, they had some structures, but it feels to me like there are some clubs that really help players work on their individual strengths and weaknesses, and some teams that are really heavily focused on structure. And I feel like our blokes are coached to within an inch of their lives, but a lot of them have been in our system for such a long period of time and yet haven't really improved in terms of their own individual craft. And we've had Toby Murray on our list now this is the 3rd season, and he still doesn't know how to stand his ground in a marking contest. And to me, that's bad coaching. Plain and simple, Brownie. What do you reckon?
Oh, it was evident with Aliir. He was just basically keeping that body contact and then just giving him a little bit of a a nudge just before the ball got there, and Murray wasn't balanced and ready.
We didn't
to
have
hold
his feet
ground.
planted. Yeah, he didn't have his feet
And he
planted.
just got absolutely. One time it got knocked over completely. The other time he got knocked out of the contest, so he didn't actually contest. He's fantastic when he can get a run and jump at the ball, and I think he's got to be more of the Georgiadis type forward if he's going to play forward, where he's running and jumping, and less. It's a bit like Walker. Walker has never been good one-on-one, body to body. He's never really been his bag. And I think Murray's going to be a bit more like that, but I think he's got beautiful soft hands. Like he's a one grab marker. Like he's the leap like Nick, but I reckon he's got softer hands than Nick, and everything that he grabs.
Yeah, he just swallows them up,
pays.
doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think his kicking, some of his field kicking and those 2 shots for goal were really good. So I think, yeah, I didn't like him, like you said before. I didn't really like what he gave us in ruck. A few times he didn't even contest. He just jumped too early and wasn't there when the ball came down. But I think as a forward, he's going to be a great option for the next few weeks if Walker's out. But he could well be, the next replacement for Walker long term.
Well, it's not just Murray. It's also the way we're set up in the midfield and some of the mistakes that I see in terms of our positioning and getting sucked in around stoppage and all the rest of it. And it makes me wonder, these lads, they come out of systems and all the rest of it, and they've obviously got individual talent, but you don't stop learning about how to be a footballer when you reach AFL level. And it seems to me that there's, like the Hawthorns and the Collingwoods that played on Thursday night, they were playing with individual freedom and they trusted their skills. And I think the coaches trusted their skills and allowed them to play with more freedom and flair. Like both McRae and Mitchell were happy to have a shootout on Thursday night. Neither one of those coaches wanted to shut the game down at any stage. And you only do that if you have faith in your players. And to me, you have faith in your players if you're comfortable with their skills under pressure. And I just don't. My impression is that Nix is a control freak that likes to be the chess master, and he thinks of his players as pieces on a chessboard, and he likes them to play a certain way. Whereas, to me, the better coaches, yes, they'll put some basic game plans in place, but they will ensure that their players have the right tools and have the trust of the coaching staff and their other teammates to play with flair and to take advantage of moments. And that was the main difference I saw between watching Hawthorn Collingwood on Thursday night and watching Port and Adelaide on Friday night.
Yep.
Anyone?
Bueller. No, look, I think one thing that's I agree with, sometimes you wonder, like, is how much of it is just his personal development physically as well, using the gym, stuff like that, because Aaliyah is an absolute unit of a guy, but he has been exposed and Toby wasn't able to do that himself. And I just wonder if, in a few more years and he'll be able to do that. Or, as you said, is it just a lack of coaching? I mean, they do stuff like, they do this thing called King of the Ring, essentially. So it's like long high balls.
I don't think that's appropriate.
Not that ring. But they do a long high ball to
Brownie, I saw your face then.
A 1v1 contest. Between the talls battle each other, and then if you win the contest, then you get, you win on, you stay in, someone next comes up and they go from there. So they do quite a lot of 1v1 work. It's generally after every session, they'll spend about 10 minutes doing that. But yeah, that was Stark. I think also I was just a bit disappointed in his ruck work as well. I think that, again, only 22, very raw still. So you'd like to think there's quite a bit of improvement to come there, but yeah, I just thought sometimes he was easily left behind at boundary throw-ins, and there's a couple of, centre throw-ups where I was, because he's got a decent leap on him, but he just wasn't able to match it with Sweet and Visitini. So a bit of work to be done there, but then you see the good things, don't you, that make you think, oh shit, there could be a player there. He's definitely a boom or bust type, but I'm glad we're actually exposing him, and we've shown confidence in him. he was there round one, and he would have kept playing if not for the injury. And we brought him back pretty quickly, and he's clearly going to get a run at it now with Tex out. So good on him. I hope he takes it. But he does have quite a bit to work on still.
All right. I reckon that just about does it. It was a fantastic win, and they're always fantastic wins when you beat the pair. And we're now, 3 in front of them now, or 4 in front of them now? Something. I think it's the biggest lead that anyone's had, isn't it? 3, I think. No, 4.
I know Vardy Magic you might know Vardy. It'd be close. I mean, during those dark days where they kept winning Port, they might have got ahead of 3 or 4, but in the early 2000s. But I think we've won like 6 the last 7 or something something.
Yeah,
Nick's
something
has a
like
ridiculous record. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and obviously inflicting Josh Carr's first defeat in a showdown in either a player or a coach's capacity, and Rashudo only reminded us of that about 17 times on Friday night.
Did you notice when after Berry got the Showdown medal, they were actually about to walk off? They already turned around to walk off, and they forgot that Neil Bourne had to do a speech and stuff. So they were very ready to get out of there. They were not happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you? You get up with 40 seconds to go, and then it gets ripped out of your hands. But they were probably lucky to be in it, but stiff shit. Just a quick one. Obviously, we're going to be previewing the game against Richmond next week on Tuesday night with Macca after I've finished telling him I told you so for probably, I'll give him about 30 minutes of that on text. So after that, we'll preview the Richmond game. But your boys' thoughts at all?
Oh, that's at the G. I'm hoping we get up for it emotionally, because you get up for a showdown. Sometimes you can have a bit of a letdown when you're playing away the next match. So it does. I know it's Richmond and they've only won 1 game in the last 12 or something, but I think it's a bit of a danger game. We just need to go switched on from the start, not let them get a 4 or 5 goal break. But I think if it was me, I'd be resting Phil Thorpe this week, and I just don't think it's worth the risk. And if you can't rest him against Richmond, who can you rest him against? But I think we should sneak home, but I don't think it's going to be a demolition, that's for sure.
Yeah, a few forced changes, big man, and probably a couple that might need a rest. Might be a good opportunity, but as Brownie said, we can't take them too lightly because it'll come and bite you in the arse.
Yeah, I'm curious to ask what Brownie thinks. So, like, Richmond obviously go to West Coast. They sense the kill. Like one of the rare games that they probably had a chance to win, and they get it done over there in a close game. Obviously we're playing them the week after, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing that we're coming up against a team that's just got a rare win? Because there's a side to each argument. Do we get them on the come down, after that big effort from them, or are they now full of confidence? Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I think they probably come. They look at it. They've got a home match and they're coming off a win, so they've got, for the first time, they're going out with a bit of confidence. And they know we're coming off a showdown where we've been really hyped up for it, and there's a possibility that you can come down off it. So I think they'll be pretty up and about, and that's what worries me. So I think it really is a danger game, even though it sounds silly to say. I think we really need to be on a game.
Yeah. Munja in the chat reckons that we should rest Nix, and I reckon that's comment of the night.
Permanently. No, but like I think that I think the way we're playing at the moment and the form we're in or lack thereof, I think every game's almost a danger game, isn't it? At the end of the day, you just have to look at the injury list for the Tigers, and surely like this is one we can't drop. Taranto's coming back in this week, but they also lost Prestia to another injury. So that sort of balances out a little bit. Obviously, we've lost a couple as well, but I just think that there's some games where if we lose this, like, gee whiz, the heat will be on. But
I think you two have got a fair amount of PTSD showing up here, because there is no way in a pink fit that Richmond should get close to us this week.
No, I'm not. I'm actually
they've
saying
hardly
that
got they've hardly got a squad. They've got a mountain of injuries. They're like an infant child, and we should similarly be coming in with a lot of confidence, having actually, played pretty solidly and won a close game. Yes, we're beat up. Yes, we're probably going to have to rest a few, but we should destroy Richmond.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. I don't know if we'll destroy it because I think we've been playing. But I mean, this could be a game where we finally click. But at the same time, based on what we've seen this year, we're just not putting up big enough numbers to destroy a team. At the same time, as I said, that injury list at Richmond, that it's just diabolical. I actually feel quite sorry for him. So, because a lot of it's their really talented young kids that they've drafted in recent years, which is a shame for their supporters because that's one of the things that keeps you going, and when you rebuild. So, I think you just got to go over there, get it done, whether it's 3, 4 goals, 5 goals, whatever it is, just get it done, come back, and then because North are going to be a much tougher ask than they have been in years previous, and would want to be up and going for them. So hopefully it's a way to find form this year. This week, I don't think it's going to be an easy game per se, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to all the machine again, mate. As I said earlier.
Tech's out, Butt's out, A and B possibly out, although we've got a 9-day break, so maybe he gets up. Similarly with Riley Thilthorpe, maybe the 9-day rest allows us to get him a little bit better. So, at least 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 forced changes. Aside from the Bond one, anyone else that you're thinking may need to be rotated through the twos? I'd love to give a game to Billy Dowling against Richmond. I really would.
He wasn't great on the weekend though. So unfortunately, I mean, to be fair, Billy, it's hard to get up each week when you know you're not going to get picked.
100%. Yeah.
So you got to factor that in. I mean, Nank was the standout in a game where we didn't have too many good players. It was a pretty embarrassing loss, to be honest. We actually nearly bloody came back with a 9-10 goal quarter, but we were pretty poor for the most part. Rob was actually quite good, but he was against like a bloody, a park footballer essentially. That's about it. I mean, I saw some good signs from Mitch Marsh, but I don't think he's ready just yet. And I don't think the club would debut him. And I think the same goes for Ludovic, who was a bit quieter as well. Welshie actually played quite a good game, but again, I don't think the club would go there if they're looking for a replacement for Tex. I suspect. I mean, the idea probably would have been to play Nick Murray, but with Butts going down, Nick would probably have to play in defence.
Well,
so I guess it just comes.
Depends on the matchups. We've still got. Obviously, we've got Ball Ace. I mean, we probably want Murray for Lynch, I guess, but
Yeah.
Worrell's there too.
You don't want to make Worrell too accountable because his best strength's in intercepting, not defending. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we do with Fogg. Do you have any preference there? Just quickly, does he play a game in the SNFL or do you just chuck him straight in?
I think if he's fit, you play him. I'm not a big fan of bringing back through the twos because if they're going to get injured, they're going to get injured anyway. But if he's ready to play, then I don't think at this stage of the season he needs a run in the twos. He could come straight back in.
Okay.
Who said does Pedler survive? Now I'll put this to you, big man. I was watching Jamie Elliott on Thursday night, and I thought to myself, that's what Luke Pedler could be for us. Could be Jamie Elliott.
Okay. Yeah.
Can take a mark, can kick a goal, is strong over the ball. If we're not going to play him as a midfielder, then I reckon we'd say to Luke, go and watch the tapes of Jamie Elliott for the last 5 years and turn into that.
I mean, the thing that Elliott's got is that Elliott's cool as a cucumber, whereas Pedler's much more a frenetic player. That's his style.
But he's played 200 more games.
No, but from the outset, that's just how Elliott was, just how he is. He's just a very chill guy, and that's reflected in the way he plays footy.
I'm not saying he's his identical twin. I'm saying he's a small to medium forward that can take a big mark and kick a good goal and can make a lot of impact with low possessions.
I mean, Cam Rayner was that for a while. He probably still is in some ways. He gets a bit more of it now. He's one that I'd probably look at that for that role. He's sort of doing bits and pieces at the moment, Peds. That goal was great. And I love his energy. It's just he's one that floats in and out of games. He's sort of where Cook was in previous years, where Cook would have a good quarter and then you wouldn't see him for 30,
What do you
30,
want him
40
to
minutes.
do? I mean, I can't believe you're saying this when Milk Taylor is like the Phantom. Just the Phantom. Like, just you don't see him for 6 months and then he does something really good and then you don't see him again for 6 months. And you're giving Taylor, are you giving Pedler shit? Like, I'm going to have to mute you again. But in fact, I might give you a week off in a minute.
Did you not see that effort, though, from Milk, mate, that set up the bloody Miller goal that wasn't? Like,
yeah, that's because he is the only one left on the ground with any energy because he hadn't done anything for 2.5 quarters.
He was okay. I actually think he's still a threat again. As whenever Archie comes back in, which could be this week, who knows? He's another one that is sort of like, would you play him in this AFL or not? But his age, you'd think probably he comes straight back in. Milk could be in danger. I think Milk's in more danger than Pedler. So
I think Pedler's a bloody key cog. Like in the third quarter, when they got one of their frees that was gifted to them, I thought Pedler was actually going to murder someone for the next 5 minutes. He went berserk and was bloody hitting people, like bodily, like fairly, if you know what I mean. And I think he's a weapon, and I think we should use him more. Don't you, Brownie? I'm not talking to Big Man anymore. It's just you and me now on this podcast.
I would like to see him run through the midfield just to have that physical
100%.
presence. Because if you got him in the midfield and eventually, if we've got, what's his name? Curtin in the midfield as well, two bigger bodies, I think that could really change the dynamic of our midfield. But yeah, I can see what you're saying in terms of a small forward. It's just, is he the kind of guy that's going to kick you 3 or 4? You know,
he kicked 3 goals 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. So if he can get regular.
What is it with you people?
No,
you're
I
off too. Get off. Get off.
No, he can take a mark. He can take a mark, but he doesn't take a lot. But he can take a mark and he can kick a goal outside 50, which I think is his biggest attribute. But I'd still like to see him streaming down out of the midfield and kicking a few goals.
Well, I've been a proponent of him running in the midfield, but I think I prefaced my comment by saying if they're not going to play him in the midfield, then he could very easily become our premier medium forward, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he's certainly not in the conversation for being dropped. I think you've got Bond and you've got Zach, and they're probably the two that, if anyone's going to go on form, it's going to be those two first.
Yeah.
Agreed. He still does some
you still
shit.
here?
Yeah, I'm still here. He still does some weird shit, Pedler. Like, I know he'd had those 3 bounces.
Big Man dropped out. Sorry about that, Big Man.
Actually, I rate Peds. I'm just saying he still does some things each game where you're just like, mate, what is he thinking? He had that Falcon where he had an easy bloody, opportunity to mark the ball, and he'd normally take it. If at training, he takes the marks all the time, but in the game situation, I think he just gets flustered a bit sometimes. But we know there's a player there. It's just, last week was obviously one of our few good players, and I still think he's got a big one coming up. Hopefully, he tried to take that mark. He knows he tried to take the mark, mate. Mark of the year, and he failed badly at it, but he tried.
I know, he tried to take an absolute hang when he was 2-on-1.
Yeah,
but
it'll happen one day.
Yeah,
no, he's good. I don't want to see Milk drop, but if Archie comes in, then he might be the lucky one. But at the same time, I would consider giving Neil Bullen a rest with that dicky knee, and keep Milk in the team anyway.
You'd do anything. You'd suggest anything to keep Zach Taylor in the team.
You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong.
We got possibly Geordie Dawson to come back as well next week, although who knows whether he'll be ready to go. But that'll obviously be another change that will need to be made. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that pretty much does it. Another epic showdown win. Another epic showdown CrowCast. Big Man's clearly got some thinking to do about his future. and he will have a 7-day break to get that sorted. And Brownie, thanks for backing me up.
I don't think I did I?
You didn't
I
detect
thought
the
I did.
sarcasm. You didn't.
Oh, I sort of had half of your back. I just left a bit exposed for someone to take you out.
Yeah, that's right. Don't forget, Tuesday night with Mako, we'll have a big show lined up. I'm sure Mako will have a lot to say about many, many, many things. And we obviously have our Hall of Flame and lots of other stuff and a preview of the Richmond game. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord. It's been a fantastic crowd on Discord tonight and also on YouTube. Thanks to everyone who supported us on YouTube, both with comments and also with super chats. Much appreciated. Brownie, big man, it's been an absolute pleasure, I'd like to say.
You're full of shit.
Well, sadly, I can't say that, but it's been okay.
Yeah, no. Good on you. We'll talk next week.
Big man's already gone. I think he's bailed. Like he's
No, I'm here.
spat the
I'm
dummy.
here, mate. I'm here, just listening to you two. That's right.
All right, thanks everyone, and we will see you on Tuesday night for Tuesday Night Live. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Cheers.